Wake up America, before it's too late. They're trying to make you fade away. They're trying to kill your faith.
And I want all of us to understand that there's a lot more to be for than to be against. Not through the government, but through what the Constitution allows us to do as people, individuals, states, and communities.
Wake up America, before it's too late. They're trying to make you fade away. They're trying to kill your faith. In the name of greed, they're selling your future. But there is still hope for you, America. Now is the time to wake up.
Those are the people I really want to thank for starting, hopefully what will be a phenomenal year for not only the Constitution Committee, which has been dedicated for the past almost 12 years now to teaching the Constitution across Palm Beach County and around the United States, but also for us as individuals. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name's Francisco Rodriguez, for those of you that don't know. I was born here, actually in Lake Park. I wasn't born in this hospital, I was born in Good Sam?
Good Sam.
Yeah. And I grew up in Jupiter, went to school at Jupiter Christian. I studied biology in school, and while studying biology, I also studied our Constitution, which was just a great honor. I got into the ideas of liberty at 15 when I read the book The Law by Frederick Bastiat, and he talked about the French Revolution and how it was just changing governments. And he says if you just get change without a purpose, then you lose liberty often. So that's one of the things that I realized at the age of 15 we needed to stop. I am running for office, but I want you guys to know this is not a campaign event. So if you guys want to talk about the campaign, we can talk about it after for sure. And I sit on the board of the Constitution Committee along with a number of other people. We're a nonpartisan group. We have the chairman of the state party, of the State Constitution Party. We have Dr. Marshall DeRosa, who's a professor at FAU of political science. We have a number of just great community people, including Dean Taffel, David Wood, who are some of the original founders. And I just recently got on board about 2 years ago to do events such as the Bill of Rights Day event, which we celebrate our Bill of Rights, which we're going to talk about today. I think that the best way that you guys can make this event valuable is to give as much feedback after the event and tell people about it and see who wants to do it in their area and their location. We're located all throughout, Palm Beach County, and we'd love to do more classes like this for people that are interested and passionate about our founding documents. I want to start today, before we actually get into the Constitution, with a pledge. Oftentimes we pledge to the flag and for all of the ideas that the flag represents. But I want to take a pledge to the Constitution because it's there that we as citizens actually have power. A flag is just an emblem, and you hope it means something. But today the flag doesn't mean what it used to mean because the power of the written document doesn't have the power that we know it has because we've let it go. So I pledge allegiance to the Constitution for these United States and for the Republic for which it stands, one federation of states under God with liberty and justice for all. I hope you guys will take that pledge with me after the class as well. As I mentioned to you, the goals of the class are really to teach people an overview of the Constitution. I call it the roadmap because oftentimes it's a difficult document. You don't know where to find things. You don't know what you're looking for. If you're dealing with things like healthcare, you won't find it in there. So sometimes you don't know where to look to not find something, and that's important as well. And I hope to step on everybody's toes, whether you're Republican, Libertarian, Democrat, Constitutionalist even. They have some misunderstandings of what the Constitution teaches. And so, again, this is a nonpartisan event, and people may not like what the Constitution says, but we have to understand why it says it. And this class won't answer the why. That's what education is about. You continually learn the why because you read the founders' words. Before we dive into the Constitution, I want to read just 3 quotes that are extremely valuable. And they're written by judges, no less. The first quote is, "The Constitution was written to be understood by the voters. Its words and phrases were used in their normal, ordinary, and as distinguished from technical meaning, where the intention is clear, there is no room for construction and no excuse for interpolation or addition." That was a case back in the early 1800s, a justice writing about the value of the Constitution. This is John Marshall in 1803. He wrote, "It cannot be presumed that any clause in the Constitution is intended to be without effect." So there's a purpose for everything they wrote in there. It's a very short document, even though it seems long. The original writing is very, very short. And then finally, in both the Kentucky Resolution and one of the most famous founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, "Put not your faith in men, because men aren't always good. Let no more be heard of confidence in men, but bind him, whoever he is in power, to the chains of the Constitution." This is a document that limits. It doesn't give freedom to government. It limits government, but it gives freedom to people. So without further ado, I hope you'll take your document, you'll write on it often, and we'll jump right into this with the very first line. I want to skip the preamble. The preamble is not legislative in nature. It is an interesting piece to give you the overview of what the document is intended for, but I want to skip right to the very first line, which is the most important line, I believe, of Article 1 of the Constitution. It says, "All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives." Now, the Senate and the House of Representatives have all legislative powers, so I want you to write a few questions by that statement. Does any power to legislate reside in a regulatory body, FDA, EPA, OSHA? And does any power to legislate reside in a president? I'm sorry, I'm trying to find how to do a slide.
View?
View?
And slideshow.
Okay, say it again, say what you said slowly.
So, it says in the very first line, it says, "All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress." Well, who else is legislating today? You have judges legislating from the bench. You have regulators. You have presidents doing it by executive order that have done it since Abraham Lincoln and even before that. So the question I ask is, if all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress, why did they do it? And why do we have 2 houses? And I hope to answer those questions as we delve into the different houses that we have. So the first house, as you go down to Section 2 of the Constitution, you have the House of Representatives. It's voted on by the population, by the people. So you have one house that's voted on by the population. It represents all of us. Well, what they were concerned about in the Constitution was that one state that has the most population would get more power to legislate all the other states. So what did they do? They created a second house called the Senate. The Senate, you get equal representation among all states, no matter if you're Connecticut or if you're California. And that's very important because they decided that all states have equal representation to limit what the federal government can do to them and have equal representation of the general welfare, which actually it talks about in the preamble. So that's a very important point. I think that's the most important section. We're going to be able to skip through most of the rest of the document, but I want to let you know that if you're looking for the ages of a House member, they can be 25. You can find that in Article 1, Section 2. If you want to know how they're elected, it tells you how they're elected. It tells you that they have to be a resident of the state that they're elected in before they can be in office. And then you move on to Article 1, Section 3, which is the Senate. Interestingly enough, at the very beginning, it used to be, before the 17th Amendment, which we'll talk about later on, that senators were elected by the state legislature. And I want you just to think about, do we want senators representing the populace, or do we want